Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the regular meeting of Fernie City Council for April 25th, 2023. We begin by acknowledging that the city of Fernie is located within Kukinamakis, the unceded traditional territory of Yakutat, and we recognize that we live and work within their vast lands. The Kanahunik are from Yakutat and are members of the Ktunaxa-speaking peoples of British Columbia, Idaho, and Montana. With that, I'll call the meeting to order. And this meeting is being conducted by in-person and electronic means in accordance with Council Procedure Bylaw number 2446. And I'll ask for mover and seconder of the following recommendation: that if the communication link to the specified place for this meeting is interrupted and cannot be restored within 15 minutes, the meeting shall adjourn and reconvene to the soonest possible time that quorum can be achieved and public notice requirements met. Mover, Councillor Ramdas. Seconded by Councillor Shoesmith. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Now I will ask for an approval of the agenda and any late items. Councillor McIsaac. It moves, and seconded by Councillor Artie Kelly. Any discussion? All in favor? Councillor McIsaac.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to move to suspend the rules of the meeting and add a new item to the business of the agenda, please.
And after a seconder for that motion, Councillor Artie Kelly. And we'll add that as an item.
Well, I'm still waiting now. We have to do this.
Okay, sorry.
Vote on the motion.
Okay, thank you.
So that feels pretty smooth.
Yeah, it does. All in favor? That's unanimous.
That's unanimous.
Yeah.
Councillor McIsaac.
Thank you, Worship. So I'd like to introduce a new business item, a notice regarding zone consolidation. Not sure we have to add that.
Okay, and I think in this case it's 9.4. Item 9.4, the business part of the agenda. I got that correctly. Thank you, Mr. McConnell. Is that, oh, okay.
It's a motion to add this to the agenda.
Motion to, yeah, this is very kludgy. Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Artie Kelly, any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. I will ask for mover and a seconder for the adoption of the minutes of our previous regular council meeting held on April 11th, 2023. Councillor Shoesmith, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. I'll now open the floor to public participation and invite the public in attendance or participating electronically who wish to comment on items listed on the meeting agenda in accordance with section 3.7.3 of the procedure bylaw to address council, except speakers must not address council regarding a matter for which a public hearing must be held or has been held pursuant to the Local Government Act prior to council's consideration of the matter or adoption of the bylaw. Speakers must not address council regarding a permit for which public notice must be given or has been given pursuant to the Local Government Act prior to council's consideration of issuance of the permit. Any speaker may only address council for a maximum of 3 minutes. And I will ask Ms. Rhodes if there's anyone at the specified place or anyone online who's indicated they wish to speak.
No, Your Worship, no one indicating they wish to speak.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8.1, tax rate bylaw number 2491, 2023 for adoption. And the staff recommendation is that tax rate bylaw number 2491, 2023 be adopted. Can I have a mover? Councillor McIsaac, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Any discussion? Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. I'm just curious, what would happen if this didn't pass? Like if it was voted down at this point? Just curious.
I'd have to turn to staff for to understand what the context of that would be.
Mayor and Council, would
the corporate officer like to speak to process or our,
I can certainly do that.
thank you, I think that would be most helpful. I think it's more than a direct financial consideration, it's a process and deadline consideration.
Right, for sure. So the tax rates bylaw, there's an obligation to complete it by May the 12th. That's on the calendar for the, but I believe it's May 15th, but I mean, the calendar's wrong. Either way, May 12th or May 15th. If it's not, if adoption's not moved, then I'm not sure if it's available in the tax rates bylaw, and perhaps the deputy clerk might know better than me, which I fully acknowledge is possible. But we could potentially move back to third reading or start again with respect to the whole process. But the tax rates bylaw follows the financial plan bylaw, which has already been adopted. So it's essentially would require a whole bunch of more work to
Understood.
get to that point.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Any other discussion? So, in light of that, all in favor? And those opposed? Thank you. Item 8.2. The Waste Regulation Bylaw 1845 Amendment Number 2492/2023 for third reading. And a mover and a seconder for the following recommendation, that the Waste Regulation Bylaw Number 1845 Amendment Bylaw Number 2492/2023 be given third reading. And I can mover, Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Shoesmith. Any discussion? All in, yes, Councillor.
I have another question.
Yeah, no, please.
I'm just curious about the big yellow bins and the other garbage bins that we have around and what's gonna be happening if this affects that, or?
Mayor Milligan through to Councillor Nixon. This is just focused on curbside, so we haven't touched or changed anything about that in this change.
If I can add
Bronski,
a
please.
little supplemental information, and Mr. Logan may have more accurate information, but he has been working to take stock of the number of bins, their locations, the level of service to those bins, so that we have a clearer picture. What we came to realize is that there are bins in the community that some assumptions have been made around, such as, is this a bin that the people want at their location or not? Is this the best location? And so we have to look at that overall level of service. I believe Mr. Logan has this work started, but it is among a number of priorities.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not at all. Any other discussion? I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's unanimous, thank you. And I'll ask for a mover and a seconder for the following staff recommendation, that municipal ticket bylaw information, that municipal ticket information bylaw number 2041, amendment bylaw number 2493/2023 be given third reading. Moved by Councillor Ramdas, seconded by Councillor Shoesmith. Any discussion? Councillor Nixon.
Thank you again, Mayor Milligan. I'm just curious. I just looked at these numbers again for this bylaw, and seeing that $50 for leaving wildlife attractants out, it just seems to be so anemic. As you know, I mean, I don't know what the numbers were last year, but I think the numbers the year before were about 13 dead bears in this community, and it seems like our conservation officers continually go out into the community dealing with wildlife attractants versus, dealing with other sort of poachers or other stuff that they do in the community or in the regional district. So I'm not sure if this is the time and place to increase those fines, but I think that $50 for a dead bear is pretty cheap, and I think we should increase that amount.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any thoughts from staff in terms of?
Mayor Milligan through to Councillor Nixon. We didn't change any of the numbers with this update to the bylaw. We just made sure the clause referred to the right one in the waste regulation bylaw. What we did in the waste regulation bylaw was also put a cost for repair or replacement to your carts. So there is another incentive for users to store their carts properly, because now they will have to pay for the replacement or repair, which didn't occur before. So there will be a small additional charge, which may not be enough to address the life of a bear, but it is something else that hopefully will incentivize people to store their carts properly and keep their safe.
Councillor Arnie Kelly.
Just a bit of a follow-up to Councillor Nixon's question. Do we know how many individuals were fined for leaving their carts out?
Mayor Milligan through to Councillor Kelly, sorry for me. No. Sorry, I do not know that information from last year.
I believe you did tell us last time, Commissioner, how many carts we replaced.
Exactly, we have the number from 2020, from last year of the replacements and repairs, but also that was total. It wasn't like due to bears or due to being run over by your truck or so.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? I do like your thinking though, Councillor Nixon, and not necessarily that it's a first offense, but some of the fines have escalating. First offense, second offense, et cetera. And I wonder then if maybe we should consider that for a future amendment to this ticketing bylaw, more of an escalating fine schedule for just that offense. Councillor Ramirez.
Thank you, Your Worship. While this is on the file here, why can't we just put a motion here and then maybe the staff comes back with the escalating funds rather than approving this? Could we not bring it back with this amendment also in the?
Potentially process-wise, I imagine we could do that. Yeah, I'm not trying to stymie the process, but I look to our corporate officer to advise.
If I could hear the question again, that'd be.
So we're reviewing this municipal ticket information bylaw to be given a third reading, and there's a question about potentially an escalating fine structure for leaving your wildlife attractions out.
In that case, and I appreciate the project manager line has worked diligently on this, I would suggest that council, we've got the motion on the table to give third reading. However, council can choose to direct an amendment, and so I would say at this point, direct the consideration of the amendment during this process, and then allow staff time to come back and actually bring that back for a third reading as opposed to. So you can move an amendment to the bylaw, so we recommend that the fine be changed. Staff would ask for time to address that. I would say that we would then table this matter until next meeting when it comes back. So.
Councillor Time.
Thank you, Worship. I would like to hear from staff about any potential implications of delaying the reading of the bylaw to entertain the amendment first.
As would I. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, right now, we don't have any concerns about delay. There's still enough time before our July transition to the central PC to have that done.
Thank you. That is helpful then. So.
I'll ask for a few minutes to actually consider that opportunity. So because we have that outstanding motion on the table, the last thing I want to do is defeat a third reading and then create another problem. Right? So, if I could have 2 minutes to have a conversation around that, and then
certainly
get back. So if we could take a short break, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Ms. Rose, we'll take a 5 minutes.
Sure.
A 5-minute break at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Apparently, not so.
I don't know, too nice. Welcome back. Commissioner McConnell.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. If council is wishing to make the amendment as suggested, then, and after this, I'm gonna suggest that we might want to close a window or two, as much as it's nice to have the windows open. Then we would recommend that we defeat third reading. That doesn't kill the bylaw, but then as soon as we defeat third reading, council can then make a motion to amend the bylaw to address the gradation in fines, which we would then, staff would then make that amendment, bring the bylaw back for third reading at that time.
Okay, so we can call a vote and just defeat the.
Yeah, if council is interested in making that amendment, then we would defeat the third reading.
So I'll call the vote, all in favor?
In favor of the motion.
Of the
Yeah,
motion to
to-
approve third reading, so now we need to vote against the approval of third
If
reading.
that's what you wish.
If that's- I'm not, yeah.
I'm putting back my.
Okay. All those opposed? Okay,
Now, after we recommend you not do what we ask.
so will someone make a motion to?
Can I make a motion that we direct staff to come back with escalating fine structure on the wildlife attractants?
Seconded by Councilor Ramos.
And if I may, I want to make sure that we've captured that and we feel that that's sufficient direction. Awesome, thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Kelly.
I just wanted to clarify, would that be for 3.8 and 4.5?
Yeah.
Escalation?
Yes,
Okay, just clear, thank you.
all in favor? That's unanimous, thank you. Thank you, Councilor Nixon, it was a good catch. I think I'm on track here with item 8.4. I'll ask for a mover and a seconder for the following staff recommendation: that the reserves funds bylaw number 2419, amendment bylaw number 2494, 2023 be adopted. Moved by Councilor McIsaac, seconded by Councilor Hamilton. Any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous, thank you. This moves us on to item 9.1, engineering services, temporary service agreements, report from the chief administrative officer and our director of engineering and public works.
Your Worship, I really apologize. I just have a question that I wanted to ask for the previous.
The reserve fund bylaw.
Yeah.
Okay,
Is it okay if I ask the question?
ask a question, sure.
Just wondering with the DCC reserve funds, I remember the staff saying that that report will come to the council at some point with regards to change in the structure of DCC. Just wondering when can we expect that coming from the council?
If I can repeat the question, Your Worship, it is, what is the timeline for the DCC review, or?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so the development cost charge review is on the finance department's list of projects for the coming year. A DCC review is typically a 12 to 18 month process. It's really significant because we have to look at our long-term capital plan. We have to look at our investment requirements and future growth needs. And all of that engineering work then feeds into a plan on what is related to growth and what is related to sustaining our community. And then the financial bylaw is a very small part at the end of that, actually. So it's quite some time away. The scope of work has not been started to work on yet. That is a scope of work development and initiation later this year, but then an extended timeline to complete.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Mr. Arnold. You're welcome. Returning to item 9.1. And a report from our chief Administrative Officer and Director of Engineering and Public Works.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of council, this is a report seeking a set of, or a series of resolutions from council to enable what is a bit of a structured backfill or resourcing of engineering services for the city of Fernie during an upcoming staff leave. As you may or may not know, we have a manager of engineering with the city of Fernie who is going to be taking an extended leave, period of approximately 12 to 18 months. We have engaged in 2 successive recruitment campaigns, and while we have had some really wonderful candidates come forward, the challenge in recruiting a civil engineer or municipal engineer with the experience both in major infrastructure projects and in development, as well as in working within the municipal context and office environment. Those 3 core competencies required, given the 1 year or 18-month time frame, we weren't able to secure anybody that we felt comfortable that we could rely on to maintain the level of service that that department and service area currently provides. And so we engaged in some discussions with consulting firms with whom we have had recent engagements, including our consulting firm of record, ISL Engineering. They provided a proposal upon which we have had general negotiations to get to a point where we are, between the director and myself and our director of finance, quite comfortable in recommending as a backfill solution for the manager. So what we are proposing is that ISL provide essentially through a secondment services of general development review and engineering services and office leadership being mentorship, support, guidance for our more junior technical staff in the department, and communication and co-leadership with the other managers and directors at our leadership team on large projects, and then a specific allocation of project management for the projects that are listed within the report. And so that would be skate park project management, wastewater system assessment and compliance strategy, fire hall planning and engagement phase. And I want to flag here that internal ownership of that is absolutely critical. It's a major project that's going to impact all of our departments. Ms. Jansen and others on the fire hall project team have put up their hands and said that it's very important to them that they retain ownership and overall sponsorship of that project during the SWER's absence. So this is a resourcing of the day-to-day project management, but not the overall ownership for that project, especially given how sensitive the matter is to our community and to staff overall. And then that staff, the council directs staff to advance in tandem an amendment to the development applications fee bylaw number 2008-2005 to enable the recuperation of external consulting fees as may be required. And this is becoming a better practice that's emerging among municipalities, particularly small to medium-sized municipalities, where you won't have technical staff, be it in planning or engineering, sufficient to meet the demand during peaks of your development cycles. And so many municipalities are starting to move in this direction, where they amend their development fees bylaws and their development process bylaws or procedures if they have them. Fernie does not at the moment, to recuperate external fees for development applications where they're unable to resource those internally. To be clear, we're not suggesting that we completely externalize all development application review and intake. What we're saying is during peak times, or when we require an external consultant to handle technical reviews, be that in engineering, in this case, or planning in another case, when we are at or beyond capacity, that we have a mechanism to be able to recuperate those fees so that your property taxpayers are not then subsidizing the demands of the development community to enable their work. Mr. Hauser and I are prepared to answer questions on the details. Thank you.
Any questions? Mr. Schuster?
Yeah, one jumps to mind. In the event that, say, staff has got openings and then one development fills those time openings and then the next development to come along no longer has that resource available, you'll have possibly a state where one developer is paying more to the city for another developer, like paying for a city service that the other one's getting for free. Do you see what I'm getting at here? That might be an issue. Is there any way of?
Just for, through the mayor and Councilor Schuster, just for clarity, you're saying that
the internal staff rate is different than what would need to be externalized.
My understanding is you would be charging some developers for external consultants and not others, correct?
It is correct, unless we have a properly developed policy that guides the application of how those fees are and makes sure it's equitable or fair. And what I'm not proposing is that every subdivision application come in and we decide and pick and choose which ones staff review and which ones the external, we may need external consulting for, but certainly with larger applications, there are we're getting to a point where there are a large number of meetings to get to application readiness and then a highly technical review of those applications, where in reality, with an internal manager of engineering or without, we are going to need to be able to recuperate those funds. A policy would ensure, in my mind, that we are communicating that clearly and fairly with applicants ahead of time. If your application requires external review because of the circumstances, like this is where we're at this current time, you're welcome to apply. This is what it's going to take to complete the review of the project. We need to be transparent in that case, and we have been working to undertake a review with municipalities around the province, and also McElhaney, who are doing the development approvals project with the manager and director of planning. This type of fee amendment was part of their scope of work, and they have moved that to earlier on in their deliverables so that we should have their recommendations on what fee structure and application process may be to guide this update to ensure that it's fair for the community.
Thanks for answering the question I was attempting to ask.
And I'm sorry, I did go on a bit there. I hope I did answer the question in some way.
Very much so.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Ramdas.
Thanks, Your Worship. Another question was just in terms of accelerating this process, would it have been feasible to actually bring the fee schedule and structure also as part of this package?
Your Worship, to council, no. There simply hasn't been enough time to research what is a best practice. I know 5 municipalities now that I've reached out to. I reached out to about 30. About 5 have shared their fees and charges and their intake bylaws, and none are consistent. Some have a deposit fee. They will charge $5,000 as a deposit for every application, get a quote from their external consultant, and then approval to charge against that out of the deposit until they get to completion. Some have a baseline fee plus cost recovery in their bylaw, and some simply just have a flat rate for hourly staff or consulting time. And I just need time to get a recommendation on what is a good practice that is defensible, because we're in a state where practice is changing in municipalities.
Mr. Isaac.
Through Mayor to Council, just to add to that on the other side, the first round of interviews was done January-ish, second round February-ish with a bit of a headhunting element. We know we got a deadline around the end of May. We wanted to ensure we had about a month so we could do some type of crossover planning to ensure all the projects were running smooth. So really, we needed to get in front of you and get your guys' input and direction before we had all the elements in place.
Thank you. Councilor
Thank you. I didn't actually write the quote, but one line that jumped out in the report for me was mention about conflicts of interest being looked at and analyzed. And I'm just curious what the concern around there was, or if someone could expand on that.
Yeah, I can touch on that too, Mayor, to Council Hamilton. So if ISL was approached by a developer and then we needed them to review the development, they scoped out some issues and how they would handle them and where they would hand off, particularly like signing of invoices would come to me, and things that typically that role would do where there is a conflict of interest, how those different elements would be handled.
Thank you.
Additionally, we discussed where the division of responsibilities are, because to have a or somewhat seconded employee making decisions about what their own company would be providing on project management and delivery is not quite something we were all comfortable with, and that's why we've tried to break this out into some project management pieces and the dedicated resource piece.
Councilor Ramdas.
Thanks, Your Worship. Another question I had was with the skate park redevelopment project management. It says once we have the engineering technologist hired, that it might defray the cost a little bit, is that correct? So question, sorry, Director Houser, what's the timeline on when we are hiring this person?
Through Mayor to Council Roundup, we have a start date of May 18th. But we do have some training to implement, and how well that goes may give us an opportunity to have this person become essentially the field inspector instead of ISL, and save us, I believe, in the ballpark around $12,000. But that's tough to commit to at this point until we see how everything is going.
Any other discussion? Mr. Borowski, just so I understand the amendment, so the way you frame it in terms of surge capacity, that will outlive this temporary posting, correct, or as temporary position. So that's the change we will make, that bylaw, a recommendation on that bylaw will come back to council for review.
Your worship, that's my intent at the moment. When we started looking at this, I started considering this as an interim amendment. However, what I'm seeing in municipalities that are similar in size or that are dealing with overwhelming demands on their staff, who are also required to deliver their capital program, is that they need to rely on external consultants, whether they be external planning consultants or external engineering consultants or technicians for some of the inspections. And we need a way to recuperate that cost during those peak periods. I think that will outlive this leave, and I think it is, from what I have heard from our consultants that we're working with on the LGDAP process and from colleagues, it's emerging as a better practice, although not completely consistent in how it's applied.
Yeah, well, then that's fair. And I like the thinking about surge capacity, so that we're not in slow times, God forbid, laying people off, but that we have access to experts to help us through those periods, and we're not therefore slowing down projects unnecessarily. So I like that thinking. Thank you. Any other discussion?
This seems like an excellent idea to help streamline our processes and prevent us from getting bogged down. People have been screaming for that for years, so. Great stuff.
Good. Well, we have a number of recommendations, 5 from this report.
And this isn't the big one.
No, I know.
First staff recommendation is that council endorse the proposed contract with ISL Engineering to provide continuity of engineering services for the city for a period of up to 18 months.
Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Ramdas. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.
The next one is that additional funding for skate park project management as per the engineering fee schedule be provided through the general capital reserve with the financial plan amended accordingly.
Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Any further discussion? All in favor? All unanimous. Thank you.
Next, that additional funding for wastewater system assessment and compliance strategy as per the engineering fee schedule be provided through the sewer reserve with financial plan amended accordingly.
Councillor Adia Kelly, seconded by Councillor Ramdas. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous.
That additional funding for fire hall planning and engagement phase as per the engineering fee schedule be provided through the facility renovation reserve with financial plan amended accordingly.
Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Shoesmith. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous as well.
And finally, that council directs staff to advance an amendment to the development application fees bylaw number 2008-2005 to enable the recuperation of external consulting fees as may be required to be brought back for readings alongside relevant bylaw and policy updates required for implementation.
Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Adia Kelly. Any discussion? All in favor? And that's also unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Item 9.2, the Wildset response regarding the Eco Garden request for further information. A report from our directors of Parks, Facilities, and Recreation. Mr. Logan.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this second report is on behalf of WildSite to provide information that council requested on February 21st, 2023, where they were considering a Class B estimate provided by an engineer for the waterworks, sanitary sewer, and required related maintenance holes and catch basins that totaled just over $30,000. I thought I don't have a slideshow prepared for this, but all the information is in the report that was provided by WildSite. But I did want to touch on a few things. One, to clarify in the last report after some investigation and talking to a lawyer. So I mentioned in section 24 of the agreement with WildSite that all utility costs were the sole expense of the permittee. So after we investigated what this actually means a little further, it was noted by our legal counsel that that would relate or be sort of intended to relate to utility fees and not service connections. So I just want to make that clarification for council. And then with regards to the another section in the agreement, section 4, it speaks to the permitted land to be used for horticultural purposes and educational programs related to horticultural, including garden plots and ancillary structures. So it goes on to say that the city does not warrant that the fitness of the permitted lands for any particular purposes, including the statement above. And that the permittee hereby accepts the risk as to the fitness of the property. And the other thing I'd like to bring up too is the sewer connection bylaw, as well as the water connection bylaw. Both speak to service connections being the responsibility of the owner, and in this case, that would be the city. And with that, I can answer any questions from council. I can give a brief overview of the information that's been provided, if that's needed by council.
Any questions for Mr. Logan? The request, of course, is still outstanding in terms of the funds necessary to connect the container farm. And I appreciate all the responses from WildSite, but of course, we've just gone through our budgeting process and we haven't budgeted the funds for this. I would like to offer to WildSite that we are happy to provide letters of support for additional funding streams to, it is a very, a laudable project. I think it's has a great deal of merit. So I would like to recommend that we offer that to WildSite, but I don't think we're in a position to provide any funds in support of this at this time.
I would concur.
Councilor Patton.
Thank you, Worship. I would support that at this time. I would also put forward though that should this project still be unfulfilled for next year and WildSite still be looking for the connection and so on, that we consider it for our financial budget updates for 2024. At least have it for consideration at that time.
I would support that as well. Councilor Robbins.
Maybe by next year, we'll have like a larger tax base and we can support all kinds of stuff. That's the goal here.
Thank you. So from that end, no action required.
No action required.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Brings us to item 9.3, licenses of occupation for patios in historic downtown. Report from our corporate officer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also do not have a PowerPoint presentation this evening, since we are trained this evening. But as you can see, I've got the largest group of recommendations. I would like to share some things, as we all like to do. I think we all enjoy the opportunity to spend an evening or some time in the afternoon out on the patios that are available in the historic downtown Fernie. And over the years, planning, particularly planning, but corporate admin assistant have been creating and developing a very strong policy around authorizing patios to occupy municipal roadways. and that policy is attached, which is the expansion of local businesses onto municipal lands and highways policy. As part of that, each one of these applicants this evening has had an existing policy or patio. All those license of occupations expired at the end of last season and are all up for renewal this year. We are recommending that they all be given a further 3-year license of occupation. The licenses that are being recommended are attached. All of the applicants were provided with a letter outlining and much thanks to Deputy Clerk Daniel, a letter outlining the process we'd be following this year. They were all but one were in on time. Those are the ones present. They've all communicated, they've appreciated the communication that was received from our office. As well, they've all been given prior to tonight a copy of the license that we'll be authorizing. No issues were brought to our attention. There are some minor changes in the licenses in the review. It was determined that if they're going to be 3 years long, some of these applicants are not necessarily the owners of the property. So it does say in there, if for any reason they're no longer operating the restaurant or the facility within that location, that we would have the right to not provide the patio license anymore. Those are the kinds of changes that were made, very minor. So other than any questions that council may have, essentially, this is the time to authorize each one of these 8 licenses that are being requested.
Any questions, Councilor Schuster?
We don't have to authorize all 8 individually if nobody has any problem with any particular one, do we?
As much as I would love to not read everything that's present before you this evening, it's our recommendation to follow the process.
Councilor Kelly.
I just wondered, were there any changes to the fees at all? Or they remained static?
The fees are unchanged, I believe.
Any other questions? Councilor Arnott.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just want to, just an observation, not a question here. Just love the agenda package for this session. Like we got like lots of good business stuff going on. Feels good to be, saying yes to a lot of good stuff, good stuff. Yeah.
I have a question relating back to the policy item 5.3.2.1, where the commercial use is enclosed with a railing, tent, or other structure. There are a couple of businesses downtown that occasionally have tents on the sidewalk. Are those authorized uses? They don't typically obstruct traffic, but I'm just curious if that's considered in this as part of this policy.
Mayor again. Yeah, my recollection that there was a separate policy that addressed that one of the former manager of planning developed. But I'll have to take a look at that and get back to council on that tomorrow.
Thank you. It's not a complaint, or it's just a curiosity. The only complaint I would be is on occasion it's been low enough that I've had to duck to get under it, but.
Yeah.
I have the same complaint.
Right? Yeah, fair.
I have no problem.
Show off.
Councilor Artie Kelly.
Would that be the same policy, sorry, through Director Lennox, for like the sandwich boards and stuff, Director Lennox?
Mayor Milligan to Councilor Artie Kelly, the sandwich boards are dealt with by the sign bylaw. So that's a separate bylaw. We issue permits for sandwich board signs by our planner.
So the answer in history.
Thank you. Ms. Jensen, did I see your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Milligan. Just to add to Director Lennox's comments, there is a perception that the entire sidewalk is city-owned, but in fact, there is a portion of that is in fact privately owned. I don't have the details on the specifics there, but we can bring that back. But there is a significant amount of private land along what appears to be city sidewalk.
Thank you.
If I may, that's, at least in front of IGS, that's 13 feet and 7 belongs to IGS, I believe. That was the numbers.
Any other questions, comments? Over to you, Mr. McCall.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are 8 recommendations. They're all fairly long. The first one, I'll make sure I read fully and
Would you
completely.
like a glass of water?
I have one somewhere. No, it's fine. I'll read the first one definitely fully and completely, but each one is identical but for location, so. What is in the package is what council will be authorizing in each case unless there's amendments requested. So firstly, that council approved the license of occupation agreement for disposition of dedicated roadway located adjacent to 502 Second Avenue for a curbside patio and a 6-seat flanking patio to Big Bang Bagels Limited for a term of 3 years for a specified fee of $10 per square meter for the curbside patio and $12 per seat for the flanking patio, and that staff be authorized to publish notice of disposition of a dedicated roadway located adjacent to 502 Second Avenue to Big Bang Bagels Limited by way of license of occupation agreement, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the license of occupation agreement with Big Bang Bagels Limited subsequent to publication of the notice of disposition in accordance with section 26 of the community charter.
Moved by Councilor McIsaac, seconded by Councilor Hamilton. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
And secondly, they do, council approved the license of occupation agreement for disposition of dedicated roadway located adjacent to 641 Second Avenue for a curbside patio to Loaf Real Honest Bread Limited, doing business as The Loaf, for a term of 3 years for a specified fee of $10 per square meter, and that staff be authorized to publish notice of disposition of a dedicated roadway located adjacent to 641 Second Avenue to Loaf Real Honest Bread Limited by way of a license of occupation agreement, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the license of occupation agreement with Loaf Real Honest Bread Limited subsequent to publication of the notice of disposition in accordance with section 26 of the community charter.
Moved by Councilor Audie Kelly, seconded by Councilor Shoesmith. Any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.
The next one is the council approved the license of occupation agreement for disposition of city property located adjacent to 691 First Avenue for an outdoor patio to 0570897 BC Ltd, doing business as the Fernie Top House for a term of 3 years for a specified fee of $10 per square meter, and that staff be authorized to publish notice of disposition of the city property located adjacent to 691 First Avenue to 0570897 BC Ltd, by way of a license of occupation agreement, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the license of occupation agreement with 0570897 BC Ltd, subsequent to publication of the notice of disposition in accordance with section 26 of the community charter.
Moved by Councilor Shoesmith, seconded by Councilor Audie Kelly. Any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Next, the council approved the license of occupation agreement for disposition of dedicated roadway located adjacent to 561A Second Avenue for a curbside patio to 1059685 BC Ltd, doing business as the Lunchbox, for a term of 3 years for a specified fee of $10 per square meter, and the staff be authorized to publish notice of disposition of a dedicated roadway located adjacent to 561 A Second Avenue to 1059685 BC Ltd by way of license of occupation agreement, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the license of occupation agreement with 1059685 BC Ltd subsequent to publication of the notice of disposition in accordance with section 26 of the community charter.
Moved by Councilor Shoesmith, seconded by Councilor Nixon. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous.
Next, our council approved the license of occupation agreement for disposition of dedicated roadway located to 561 Second Avenue for a curbside patio to 0903727 BC Ltd, doing business as the Northern Bar and Stage for a term of 3 years for a specified fee of $10 per square meter, and that staff be authorized to publish notice of disposition of the dedicated roadway located adjacent to 561 Second Avenue to 0903727 BC Ltd, limited by way of a license of occupation agreement, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the license of occupation agreement with 0903727 BC Ltd, subsequent to publication of the notice of disposition in accordance with section 26 of the community charter.
Moved by Councilor Nixon, seconded by Councilor Audie Kelly. All in favor? Or sorry, any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, the council approved the license of occupation agreement for disposition of dedicated roadway located adjacent to 492 Second Avenue for a curbside patio to Rooftop Coffee Roasters Limited for a term of 3 years for a specified fee of $10 per square meter and $12 per seat for the flanking patio. And that staff be authorized to publish notice of disposition of a dedicated roadway located adjacent to 492 Second Avenue to Rooftop Coffee Roasters Ltd. by way of a license of occupation agreement, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the license of occupation agreement with Rooftop Coffee Roasters Limited subsequent to publication of the notice of disposition in accordance with section 26 of the community charter.
Mover, Councillor Schussman, seconded by Councillor Adi Kelly. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
Next, the council approved the license of occupation agreement for disposition of dedicated roadway located adjacent to 401 Second Avenue for a curbside patio to 636198 BC Ltd. doing business as the surplus for a term of 3 years for a specified fee of $10 per square meter, and that staff be authorized to publish notice of disposition of dedicated roadway located adjacent to 401 Second Avenue to 636198 BC Ltd. by way of a license of occupation agreement, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the license of occupation agreement for 636198 BC Ltd. subsequent to publication of the notice of disposition in accordance with section 26 of the community charter.
Moved by Councillor Schussman, seconded by Councillor Ramdas. Any discussion?
Just wanted to give Jeff a little break.
You want that glass of water now?
All in favor? That's unanimous.
And finally, that council approved the licensed occupation agreement for disposition of dedicated roadway located adjacent to 301 Second Avenue for a curbside patio to Himalayan Spice Bistro Limited for a term of 3 years for a specified fee of $10 per square meter. And that staff be authorized to publish notice of disposition of a dedicated roadway located adjacent to 301 Second Avenue to Himalayan Spice Bistro Limited by way of a license of occupation agreement, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the license of occupation agreement with Himalayan Spice Bistro Limited subsequent to publication of the notice of disposition in accordance with section 26 of the community charter.
Moved by Councillor, seconded by Councillor McIsaac. Any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Well done.
Now I need to find a glass of water.
Item 10, correspondence.
9.4.
Sorry.
9.4.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Item 9.4.
I think that's to me, and I too do not have a PowerPoint presentation. It's keeping with the theme for tonight. So your worship, what I brought is a notice of motion, and I'll read out the motion as I've written it, and then provide a bit of background information if I may. And then I hope there'll be some discussion about that opportunity. So the motion is written as to move that staff create and present a report on the feasibility, benefit, consequences, and potential plan to consolidate R1 single-family residential and R1B single detached plus residential zones. And the purpose here is to determine if consolidation would better support and enable residential infill and intensification in those neighborhoods where a desire for such has been expressed in the official community plan. So we do have some areas in the community which have expressly been identified for those, and we already regularly do conversions from R1 to R1B. This consolidation would save a whole bunch of time down the road in doing those. A couple of notes here I wanted to talk about. This is a little bit of information from staff. One of the things, what I determined was there are currently 1,403 R1 lots, zoned lots in Fernie. 195 of them are zoned R1B, about 14%. Moving these, consolidating these to allow R1Bs on all those locations, if we were able to double that, that would create 195 new living spaces in Fernie. And since it takes about 6 weeks of council time, that's not even counting staff times, meetings to do this, just to do 195 conversions would save us about 20 years of council time. So that's a whole bunch of time savings right there. Now, there's some issues, of course, that are I think worth discussing. One is that the province is promising to bring in R4 requirements for R1 later in the fall. We don't know when exactly that will happen, or what exactly that will look like, or how exactly that will affect our particular residential zones, and this feels like something that we could be moving on well in advance of that, and if it changes later, so be it. There are probably discussions worth having with regards to what this will do with regards to parking congestion, whether there are infrastructure capacity issues, if there's a significant increase in certain areas and so on. The one thing that I did want to make sure that would be on the table is one of the reasons why I specifically pushed for R1B is detached dwellings are not eligible for short-term rentals under our short-term rental bylaw. So any secondary detached suites that would be created would become long-term rental suites, which I think is something is sorely needed in our community. That's essentially it for me. I don't think I need to add that the need for housing is great, and so I'm hoping that this is an opportunity that we could take advantage of in a relatively short period of time and allow people to perhaps even take advantage of it during the upcoming growing season.
Thank you. Any immediate response, folks, questions that folks might have? Councilor Hammond.
I think this is a fantastic idea. I'm fully in support of it. The question that does come to mind is with the telegraphing of the province of moving to R4, or whatever, however they're going to phrase it, for all residential, currently zoned residential lots. Is there any risk, is there any benefit to us weighing the pros and cons to just jumping straight to that? That if you own a residential lot, you can build up to 4 separate units, which I think still captures Councilor McIsaac's intent of keeping them out of Airbnb pools, because if they're a separate residential unit, they're not eligible for Airbnb. They're only eligible for long-term rent.
Yeah, I appreciate the question, but I would echo Councilor McIsaac's thinking. We don't know what that looks like, so jumping straight to R4 without a framework under which we were building that, we might find ourselves out of step with the problems when we get there.
If I may respond.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
I don't disagree, but I would pose the question back, are we going to be out of step with the R1 to R1B amalgamation anyways? The city of Edmonton has already moved towards this. There's numerous municipalities in the United States that have moved towards this, or I should say have implemented it to quite success. So yeah, I'm more than happy to have that discussion as well, where we handcuffing ourselves for potential changes coming in a couple months' time, or how can we move this forward to Councilor McIsaac's intent of getting this done for this building season?
Understood. Mr. Lennox, you have...
Yeah, just for Council, Mayor and Council's edification, we already do one of our CB zones allow for 4 dwelling units on sort of a typical 60 by 120 lot with the CB zone that Mr. Ing proposed and was adopted by council a few years ago in Riverside. And furthermore, planning manager and myself are gearing up to bring an amendment to the zoning bylaw, which, as Mr. Similini mentioned at the chamber luncheon last week, to amend the duplex zone throughout the city, as well as the R3 zone, to allow for secondary suites within multifamily dwelling units and duplex dwelling units. So, in fact, again, for a duplex throughout the city, we would have 4 dwelling units on a typical 120 lot, if that was adopted by council.
Thank you. Any other discussion? The question comes immediately to mind is workload in terms of, we've already talked this evening about surge capacity and the need at certain times of the year, particularly in planning, planning and engineering, focus about surge capacity. So, is this a heavy lift, I guess, to bring back a report of this nature in the short term?
Yeah, Mr. Logan, I guess my initial comment on that, it would certainly require a joint effort between the planning departments and the engineering and operations department on several of the issues, as well as bylaw. Parking congestion seems to be the primary complaint in regard to public hearings related to these resigns. So we would have to delve into streamlining our parking enforcement, particularly in winter months, and then really dive into that issue to address some of the issues that we had last winter in particular. So yeah, there would be definitely some collaboration required between departments, which would take time away from, we're coming into the surge season in terms of current planning. Like the planner, I think, had 18 or 20 new applications on her desk that she's reviewing, so it's starting to happen, that we're starting to build up towards construction season.
Mr. Heiser?
Just to add on to Director Lennox's comment, Council's well aware of the parking challenges and the shallow utilities and the lanes challenges. We've discussed that in recent months, particularly capacity of existing utility pipes for water and sewer. That large of comprehensive change is not a simple answer to get, unfortunately. The zoning changes can be made, but can a block handle 20 more units on that one water line? I don't know. We'd have to investigate those things and probably engage consultants who can run our models.
Councilor Ivey.
Has the province given any indication at all, other than, I read through the Homes for People Action Plan, and it seems like there are several fronts that they're working toward filling gaps and looking to change and amend, streamline. Have they given any hints of what timeline?
To Mayor and Council, we don't have a specific timeline or specific knowledge of whether it's going to be superseding legislation, directive action at specific municipalities who aren't meeting their housing needs assessments, if it's a blanket direction to all municipalities, if it's a change in enabling, but we don't know how yet or exactly when. Sorry.
Councilor Shoesmith and then Councilor Fenton.
A couple things. I definitely support the direction that Councilor McKay's pointing us into here. With just the two caveats that we should definitely ensure adequate piping and parking, although if I recall correctly, our last meeting, we talked about that with the R1Bs. It seems the law is there, but perhaps not the enforcement, if I recall correctly. So I would definitely support this, but we'd have to figure out the pipes issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. One thing that I did put in the notice of motion that I neglected to discuss it earlier was that one thing that was quite important as far as putting this forward is that it's only the zoning consolidation that would change. So all of the other regulations associated with building there, I'm not expecting any changes. People would still have to comply with lot coverage rules, setback rules, parking requirements, lane access, all of those other things I would assume to remain in place. The only thing that would change is that you wouldn't actually have to change the zone from R1 to R1B in order to begin the process of looking at a secondary suite on a garage or a laneway house or so on. All of those other things would still continue to apply. Nothing about that would change. So hopefully that will, mitigate a certain amount of the work that needs to be considered when considering whether or not we're doing an R1 and R1B. Thank you.
Councilor Roundas.
I just want to echo this, Your Worship. It's consolidating everything on the zoning portion, and we'll never have like an elegant solution, all the issues that were raised here. We should just work it through various channels that we already have, but fully support this idea of consolidation of those two zonings.
Councilor Nixon.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I love it. Moving from 27 different colors to 26 different colors on the zoning map would be really good. This has always been a concern of mine.
I can't distinguish between.
Yes, it's difficult, isn't it? However, I'm just wondering if we were to put this onto the side desk, maybe the other side desk of staff. I'm just wondering what the timeline would be for this actual, like when this could come back through the surge.
Mr. Baranowski.
And back into Mayor and Council, I think if council are seeking a preliminary report from staff that outline what the implication would be of following down this route and what the implication would be on our work plans, and whether we recommend pursuing this before or after understanding what provincial legislation is coming, I think that could come quite quickly. That's a light assessment of, okay, how big of a concern is, who would need to be pulled in to work on it, and what existing projects would need to be delayed. On the surface, if we're going to jump into a really deep analysis of this, we're going to be losing our manager of engineering and our planner, and likely delaying the local government development approvals project midstream and on a timeline, the transition of the manager of engineering's work, and potentially some work on the scope of work for the official community plan. However, I may be wrong, and I can't say any of that with confidence without having them sit down and actually look at that resolution and say, okay, we're going to spend an hour of our time collectively telling you what it will actually take to go down this route and whether we think that's a good idea to support your outcome or not.
I did have my hand up earlier. Two questions, if I may. First question, when we presently evaluate a switch from R1 to R1B, is an engineering report, or does engineering consider the capacity of utilities in the area at that time as well?
Through Mayor to Councilor Hamilton. Yes, but to do a blanket change like this I suspect it'd be prudent to step back and go, what if half of these lots did add a unit? What does that do to our water network, for example? What does that do to our sewer network? Because we do have areas in the annex in particular and historic main town where our sewers are surging because they are at capacity and rising and falling in the manhole as the flows are coming in the mornings and stuff.
And the second point to Councillor Nixon's comment about dropping the colors, I made a note from AKBLG this last weekend. The City of Okotoks just recently went from 33 colors down to 9 in their zoning.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to return to the motion and speaking to Mr. Boranowski's point, the goal at this point is to actually ask staff to color in the drawing, right?
Yeah.
So, I've put forward an idea. What I'm hoping is that staff will come back with a fairly light overview of what the extent of impact for a change like this, because ultimately what I'm hoping is that along with what's coming down from the province is, as Mr. Simulini's talked about with the changes for R2 and R3, that maybe this becomes a template for how we can move forward on a bunch of potential changes and significantly reduce the number of colors on the map. Just acknowledging that the necessity of being able to intensify the living areas in our community. So yes, again, the motion is simply to ask staff for the information, not to litigate it here tonight.
No, understood.
But to find out what it is that we need to know in order to decide.
Okay. Councillor Schussman, Councillor.
Just a two-parter through your worship to staff. To what extent do we anticipate doing a bunch of this work anyway, once laws change with the R4 thing?
Director Lennox?
Yeah, Mayor Milligan, through you, Councilor Shoesmith, yeah, I'd have to see, exactly what the province comes out with, but I would like to add that, I was gonna mention earlier, we do allow secondary dwelling units in the West Fernie residential zones. What's unique, obviously, about West Fernie is there's a vendor for lane, and there might be one other lane, so they don't have the lane issues that Director Hauser mentioned in regard to servicing and access. But as Councilor McIsaac mentioned a few meetings ago, we're all part of the city of Fernie, and that's one neighborhood, and some other neighborhoods might want to have the same entitlements in terms of land use. So I was expecting, this would be one of my major issues to look at with the OCP update, that this would be front and center in terms of that process. So it will get, if it doesn't get a full review moving forward, it certainly will during the OCP update.
Thank you, Director Lennox. Was there a second part to your question?
Yeah, thank you. If Councilor McIsaac reading this out constituted a motion or constituted moving it, I would put the second.
Certainly.
Yeah, and I was gonna say the same thing.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, if it's a preliminary 1 hour meeting amongst staff, I just wouldn't wanna see staff spending a lot of time on this, and then coming back, and it comes back to us September 1st or something like that.
Right.
Because of their capacity, then it might be, all that time and effort might be moved because of the province's change. So,
right. That
would be my concern. So I'll second that.
Second and second?
Or first and second. Whatever you would like to do.
Another coat of paint. Councilor Shoesmith and Councilor Roberts.
I'm almost done, sorry. Seems to me a lot of this stuff are things that we're just going to wind up doing anyway, so like some of it is just getting ahead of the curve, I would think.
Yeah, I think that's a fair call.
So,
I'm just worried about analysis paralysis here.
Yeah.
Your worship, this is a great idea. I think we should just keep going on this. The only thing that I would actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I just feel like could we actually write a motion that brings down the 26 colors to 9 colors? I know, it's asking for the moon here, but I just want to move on this.
No, I understand, but I think this is a great start. I think everybody, as the conversation's gone on the table, everybody's supportive. Do you, Mr. Bronowski, need, is that motion as written sufficient to your needs in terms of direction?
Provided council is also the quote I have written down here in quotation marks attributed to yourself, Councilor McIsaac, is fairly light overview of what it would take. If we're all comfortable with that, I think I'm comfortable with that, that's good. My one caution, and I do need to share it just to remind council, the reason you heard about that at the conference is because it's a momentous amount of work and consultation with the community, and probably took an extended period of time, took people away from their previously identified priorities. 35, 40 to 9 colors on a map is great. It means completely dedicating your planning team to a project like that for an extended period of time, or resourcing them adequately. So I just don't want to undersell what you are interested in is a comprehensive redevelopment of our zoning bylaw, and that is no small amount of work. And the reason you heard about it is because it is great work, but probably took quite a bit to get there.
Mr. McCall.
If I may, Your Worship, two things. One, firstly, we didn't capture it, so Councilor McIsaac did move that when you read out the motion. That was
He did.
and seconded by Councilor Shoesmith, is what we captured. Thank you. And then secondly, if I may, the motion itself reads fairly substantially in that it's a report on the feasibility, benefits, consequences, and potential plan. So it's requesting quite a significant amount. I would recommend that there be language captured within the motion that indicates that the intent is for it to be a high-level report, or something to that effect that clearly indicates that because when staff bring back a report that doesn't go as in depth as the motion, it may be problematic later on down the road.
Thank you, Worship. Move to amend the motion to insert the words high level between and report in the motion.
Second that motion.
Well, I would submit that, since it's not been voted on, Councillor McIsaac, you made the motion, and Councillor Shoesmith is.
But it was seconded, so we haven't
Well,
voted
that's
on it, so
fine.
we have to amend it, because there's a motion on the table.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's been amended and seconded.
All in favor of the amendment? And then, do we need to?
All in favor of the amended motion?
All in favor of the amended motion? That's unanimous, thank you.
It's tough having a corporate officer on either side.
I know. It's a little bit like.
I apologize.
It's a bit like Inception.
I was gonna suggest, I was gonna go for the friendlier version, but Councillor Hamilton jumped in so much.
Is that sufficient, having high level, is that communicated to staff?
Good, excellent, an excellent motion, thank you for bringing that forward, I think we all agree this is a great time. Okay, with that, item 10, correspondence, any discussion on those items? Councilman Cuddy.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to make a comment with regards to the letter from Interior Health, and that's because there was a motion with the AKPLG conference which spoke directly to the challenges that municipalities are having with decriminalization. I felt that the letter was good in regards to the sense that it certainly has addressed the fact that it sees that municipalities are having challenges, but it has also brought that there are a bunch of places where the challenges have been met, which I think is promising, and speaking specifically to the idea that, you know, some period of time is gonna have to go by before we all really understand what the implications are. But I'm hoping that by the time that period of time has gone by, the motion for assistance from the province to help those communities that are facing challenges has made its way to UPCM and is on its way up the food chain that speaks directly to this. So there are communities out there that are quite concerned with the challenges of this. But I mean, I agree with what the general premise of the letter, which is we do need to have some time go by before we really understand what and where the specific challenges are.
Yeah.
Hopefully by the time we know that, we'll also have some support in place.
100% agree. I was struck by that myself, because every community's experience will be different, and they're recommending essentially a minimum of 6 months to wait and see how it affects your community and before you take significant action, which I thought was prudent. Good, thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 11, reports from council. And we'll start this evening with Councilor Ramirez.
Written it down, your worship. Yeah, so it was, I volunteered at the aquatic center this weekend, where dolphins were having the swim meet. It was really good to see some personal bests broken by many of our swimmers, so it was great. And also had some opportunity to chat with a bunch of out-of-towners also. One thing, many of the out-of-towners were not new to Fernie, they have been here before. Their comment was the real estate prices haven't dropped one bit, and the views are like super expensive still. And that was really interesting. And I also saw some of the dedicated staff at the aquatic center too during the whole event. That was really awesome to see. Yeah, it was really good, well executed event from both the dolphins as well as the silver shark.
Thank you. Councilor.
Thank you. Yeah, as I previously mentioned, attended AKBLG this past weekend. Had some great conversations with colleagues from around the Clinton Boundary region. events are always so informative and valuable for the knowledge sharing, and really glad that I was able to be a part of it.
Thank you. Youth Councillor Fernie.
Thank you. These past 2 weeks, Student Council and I have been focused on finalizing our Earth Days cleanup, which will take place around the school and onto some city land. And then the City of Fernie has kindly helped with the garbage removal on that, so the Fernie Secondary School passes along a big thank you. And then we've also been working on our Inclusion Day, which will take place this Friday, and it's just made to basically include everyone and making connections and friends within our school. And then since April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, we put together a large infographic board in our school, which has some resources and a little bit more information and awareness on that. And that's what I've been up to.
Thank you. Councillor Schuster.
Yeah, I managed to make it out to AKBLG for the better part of 2 days. That was my first time attending that. It was quite informative to understand what that is and does. Had to come back in a hurry due to some issues, but yeah, that's about all I had on the go was AKBLG.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Worship. It's a long one. Well, maybe it's not a long one, maybe it's not. I was very happy to attend the Chamber of Commerce AGM at the Cast Iron Grill last week. I want to commend Planning Manager Derek Simolini, on his great presentation and reflections upon our zoning and challenges that we have here at the city, and want to congratulate the Chamber for running a tight ship and posting this $36,000 surplus, which was really good for the Chamber. As well, I want to congratulate Councillor McIsaac and Hamilton on running another great Association of Kootenay Boundary Local Government conferences. I know that they put out coffee, oh no, I'm just joking. It was a great conference, but I feel like it's, people were asking me in the last couple of days, so what did you get out of it? And I'm like, I need to reflect upon all of it as well. In order to get the best thoughts out of my brain from this conference. I know that our Fernie resident and Community Energy Association, Jen Grimbledinger and her colleague said that the CEA is the third largest employer in Fernie, which I thought was quite funny. The other thing that was happening at AKBLG, there was a lot of discussion on this Galloway file. It is a very interesting file, and I want to thank Councillor Ramadas for representing at the 150 person strong rally that was publicized on CBC Vancouver, and that occurred on last Saturday. Most of us were in Cranbrook, so we couldn't get there, so thank you. Personally, I want to say that I'm against this $91 million estate lots. And for people that are not going to be living here, they might be just living here on the weekends, and I think that they need to put in some high density for this community. I don't think it does anything good for the city of Fernie. I encourage people to come to the public hearing on May 3rd at the Catholic Hall, which is right behind City Hall, and let the RDEK directors know how they feel about this development. A lot of the directors are coming here for that specific day. You need to register May 1st with the RDEK in order to speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your worship, my name was called out, can I come in?
Yeah, you may.
Thanks, Councillor Nixon. They were expecting Councillor Nixon at the rally, so they had to settle down for me. I was coordinating with Councillor Nixon while he was away in Cranbrook. Thank you.
Councillor Riley.
Well, since Councillor Nixon gave half of the things that I wanted to say, I just will be a little more brief. I too was at the Chamber AGM. I was very impressed with Manager Simolini, who gave an excellent and extremely well-received presentation. So kudos to Manager Simolini. I found a lot of great value in some discussions with some of the community business folks, and it was really a good function. I attended my inaugural AKBLG, and I had really great, met a lot of West Kootenay people. and really enjoyed speaking to them. It seemed that I just met way more West Kootenays than East Kootenays, and learned that they really share a lot of common problems with us. Enjoyed the resolution process and the debates, and wanted to say congrats to Councillor McIsaac, who is acclaimed Vice President, and of course, Councillor Hamilton will continue as Director. So it was pretty prideful moment for Fernie to have the two of them represent us. And then I attended the Rod and Gun Club benefit. It was super well attended. It's wild and woolly. It's very entertaining. There's auctions, there's raffles, there's so many sponsors and great folks. And there was fundraising done again for Steve Tollfree, and it was just super heartwarming. Fundraising done for Friends for Friends. So it's just a fantastic event that the Rod and Gun does, and I was also able to talk to a few people, and the subject of Galloway did come up. Lots of concerns presented, and so, yeah, that's it for me.
Councilor McIsaac.
Oh, thank you, Worship. I won't spread the paint on too thickly, but I also attended the chamber and enjoyed it, and Mr. Simone Saka was very appreciative that it's a well-run event. I enjoyed AKBLG. I've been there for a few times and really enjoyed the resolution process. I brought back a whole bunch of really scary phrases for staff, like OCP on a page. Yeah, terrifying. But it was really excellent. We had some great sessions. I really particularly enjoyed a lot of the sessions with regards to the polarization of public conversation and the challenges with social media for local government, and the siloing that goes on in those situations and so on. I did want to recommend a great book, which I haven't read entirely yet, but have started and was brought up repeatedly, which I was sold on the title, which is I'm Right and You're an Idiot. But it's a book specifically on the toxic state of public discourse and help clean it up. So if you see it at a local library on the shelf somewhere, I would strongly recommend having a look at it. Yeah, there's not too much more to say about that. For those that are watching and don't know too much about the Association of Kootenay Boundary Local Government, the vast majority of municipalities and areas are members, and the primary goal is to identify, gather, and collect the shared problems that we all have and help scale those up to UBCM and ultimately put them on the desks of the ministers of government and so on. And we have a lot of shared issues around things like forest management, healthcare, transportation services in general, etc. And so putting a whole bunch of those people in the room and identifying those challenges and the shared ones helps to magnify them and bring them up. So we help solve our problems by helping solve everybody's problems. So excellent event, enjoyed it, thank you.
Thank you, and not to put even more paint on all of that. Yeah, I also attended the chamber AGM, an excellently run event, and Manager Sibley did a great job. I'm a little disappointed nobody's mentioned my opening remarks.
They were very good.
Were you good?
Crestfallen. Yeah, I had a really great conversation with the executive director about how she's doing everything for the first time, and really enjoying herself, learning as she goes, and she did a great job. AKBLG, again, I won't put too much more paint on that, except to say that it is an excellent experience, not just to learn how that organization runs and how it carries issues forward, that then, as Councillor McIsaac has indicated, move up through the system, but how we are in sort of nested ecosystems of local government, all the way up, and it's a great opportunity to build relationships and to learn from others and the challenges they face. Very much enjoyed it, and I did win the Columbia Basin Trust Gift basket,
Nice.
which was an epic experience.
But you called it.
I called it, and even more socks in that basket, if you can believe it. So, bit of an inside joke, I apologize for those watching. And as Councillor Nixon has indicated, May 3rd at 7 p.m. at the Fernie Family Community Hall next to the Catholic Church. The Galloway hearing, and as he's also indicated, most of the directors from the RDK are coming in person to watch that. And there is a second hearing on the 4th, but that is a Zoom-only hearing. Or a continuation of the hearing, I should say. So for those folks who can't make the 3rd, the 4th is available too. And so with that, yes.
Just a question about that, Your Worship. Is the May 1st deadline for registering to speak applicable to the 4th as well?
I don't know that, I'll have to clarify that. I'm not sure.
I think I can actually verify that. I
Okay.
was reading this morning, and May 1st is actually for the 4th. You don't have to register in advance for speaking on the 3rd. You have to show up by 6:30, or sorry, between 6:30 and 6:45 to indicate you want to speak on the 3rd.
Get your name on the speaker.
Oh, I see.
Thank you.
The 1st is for letters submissions as well.
The first is for letters.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just maybe, my request to you, if you can actually explain this on the video call also, because recollecting my own experience back in 2018 when Cedars had a similar public hearing, I wasn't aware of what a public hearing even is. I actually expected the mayor and the RDK director to actually respond to whatever the people are asking. I know we know that, but I was just wondering if you can say 2 words to.
Yeah, that's an important consideration. Thank you for that. It is, I think, as described by Corporate Officer McConnell as a quasi-judicial body where it is designed to gather information and perspectives on the potential development. And so it's an information gathering process that then will inform further decision making at the RDK.
I have another procedural question for the public hearing.
Yes.
That you may or may not know the answer to, but what is the RDK's plan or contingency should 500 people show up May 3rd to speak, to get their 2 minutes of speaking?
I can't answer that, no. I don't know. Was there any questions here?
Yeah, I thank you, Your Worship. I was talking to some people today, and they had mentioned that they had submitted the letters to the RD, and then they were being told that they can't present on the 3rd as well. So if you have submitted a letter, no, I'm not sure the language is secondhand now, but
okay,
we might want to clarify with the RD.
Yeah, it's certainly worth clarifying. I don't know the procedure by law well enough to comment.
Yeah.
If I may, I was also reading about that this morning.
Just a wealth of information.
I was doing a bit of research into this. You're not allowed to present the same information, but if you have additional or different information from the written submission, you may speak. They do not want you to go up there and read verbatim the letter that you submitted.
Yeah, just entering it into the record as well.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'll ask Mr. McConnell to read the recommendation to close.
Certainly, Your Worship. There is a recommendation to close. That council close the meeting to the public pursuant to section 90, sub 1, sub E of the Community Charter, as the subject matter relates to the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements.
Mover. Councilor Hamilton, seconded by Councilor Kaiser. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Well, thank you for joining us, everyone, this weekend. We're now moving into our closed meeting. We'll take a